With forward momentum from Spain and a new car, there is now a new advantage for Mercedes to actually be very deadly in Canada. Why the Grand Prix in Canada can actually be good for Mercedes, what is this new advantage that they have, and what is future talk with Hamilton and with actually the team going forward. Well, first, let's talk about Canada. Canada as a track, it's a very rear limited track. So it very much bases off of whether your car is balanced correctly and can it save on its rear tires. Because going into turns 1 and 2 and really the last chicane are very focused on really the rear tires and how well you can take that corner off of balance. On most tracks that Mercedes did dominate on, like Australia and Spain, those are very front limited tracks, so it is quite the opposite of what is going on here in Canada. But they do have a new car, and the new car does offer a couple better features than its previous predecessor, the Zero Pod. First thing to note, they actually did perform very well in Monaco, and why I'm bringing up Monaco is because it's a track that's very focused on bumps and curbs, and Canada is another one of those tracks where actually taking curbs correctly and really bumps onto the track can play a very important factor, especially going into qualifying. Now in qualifying, they had a pretty decent Monaco. Spain, I guess for George Russell's case, wasn't great, but we do learn that the car actually has a lot of great race pace and kind of sacrifices its quali pace. Other teams like Ferrari and even Aston Martin in Spain did not know how to make that setup really arrangement, but the actual W14 performed very well on that. Now that does have a lot to do with tire wear, and Canada is a track where tire wear can be actually very important to have a lot less of it. So I would say they are very competitive with Aston Martin and Red Bull in this aspect. It's a very even battle between those three teams on which team genuinely has the best tire wear. Since they brought this new suspension trick, we haven't really been able to see, Spain showed us off that their tire wear now is great and even comparable to the Red Bull. So the actual suspension that they have brought has allowed for them to go for longer stints, and Canada will even more exaggerate that really advantage that they have. They also have gained a new, I would say, straight line speed that they did not have before. The Zero Pod felt like it was such a draggy car. It really did screw them over in certain tracks, especially through DRS efficiency, which is still weak, but there are rumors upon that I will touch on later with their DRS. Other than that though, their DRS efficiency is weak, but their actual car, when it's really using anything but the DRS, so when it's just its regular self, no DRS open, it's actually very efficient. The car is actually up there with some of the top dogs and is pretty fast in a straight line. Even Lance Stroll went on to call it a rocket ship in a straight line, and the Aston Martin is pretty slow in a straight line, so it's not really comparable to those two cars, but hey, they were able to catch Carlos in the Ferrari. Ferrari is a fast car in a straight line, believe it or not, even though it's pretty weak everywhere else. So yes, they have become a lot more competitive in that aspect. Now just working on the DRS will be more of a task to do. But in race pace, honestly, the most important part is to have it without the DRS to be very efficient and fast in the straight. So this already gives them that advantage. But they've been able to lower their car. In Spain, the car was lowered a lot more. So being able to lower the car will give them the advantage going over curbs, but also going down straights, as I talked about. So that is something to look at going here into Canada. It can make them a threat, even if Andrew Shevlin likes to say, oh, it might be a harder track for us, we're going to fight more Aston and Ferrari. Yes, they will fight with Aston and Ferrari, but I do think that they could come out on top and very much surprise really the grid again as to where they found this newfound pace. Talking about the new advantage that they have. Well, the biggest thing is that their suspension is just really what has been the biggest upgrade to the car. So yes, the floor is a big aspect, and that really helped with that straight line speed that I was talking about that they found in Spain. Not through the DRS, but just through less drag. The floor has been able to help with that. But where the actual car has been able to be lowered, it has a newfound setup window. Let's talk about setup window. A lot of people don't really know what that is referred to. Mercedes love to refer to, oh, we have such a small setup window, we don't have a big setup window, it makes us struggle on certain tracks, and that is still to be true. Yes, their car isn't a brand new B-spec Mercedes car with a brand new chassis. They're working upon that no side pod design, but it's just done in a different fashion to where they can extract a lot more pace out of it. So yes, the setup window isn't If it was here before, it's not here now, but it's here somewhere. It's somewhere in the middle. They have more of a chance to actually set up their car correctly towards different types of tracks. And I feel like Canada will actually be the first time that we get to see this car be set up in a proper window, unlike the year before. I mean, the year before, in interviews, we had Hamilton actually talking about the car being one of the worst cars that he's ever driven in his career. So, and it was on Canada. It was on that track.
It didn't work. Nothing we do to this car generally seems to work. So we're trying different setups. Me and George went with much different setups in this P2, just to see if one way works and one way doesn't. I'll wait to hear whether or not how it felt for him, but for me it was a disaster.
That had to do with the setup window being super small. It just practically means setting up the car, being able to let it ride the curves better, being able to lower the car more, making it a more efficient and balanced drive. The W13 had such a small window, so tracks like Brazil really exaggerated its performance, but then you also had tracks like Canada that did not exaggerate its performance enough. They were still good in the race pace, but it was helped due to a safety car and so on. So the setup window is now bigger with the suspension setup because they're able to lower, put the car higher, still actually have that straight line speed, but also just ride that car a lot more efficiently with a lot more balance, and making a happier Lewis Hamilton. The new anti-dive that they've added to the car, I mean, obviously that is Red Bull inspired us. Red Bull has really been going with this setup since really 2022, and no other team has really caught on. What they're able to do in the braking zones is something that Mercedes has now really been working on. They want to be able to brake harder and turn their car at a better pace. This will allow for that. It'll make it for a more pointier edge, something that Max Verstappen really likes. But it is also something that Lewis likes. He loves being able to turn the car like that, and it gives him that advantage. It's really going to help going into that last chicane, even turns 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The whole first sector will be dictated, I think, between Mercedes and Aston Martin. That's where the fight will really look at for sectors 1 and 2. Now 3 is where I think Red Bull will have a huge advantage over the other 3 teams that I just named. Well, 3 being 2 actually, Aston Martin and Mercedes. They will have the advantage there, but Mercedes could compete with this newfound straight line speed. Also, if their suspension setup is correctly set up, they could be very deadly in that last, really, sector. And they could catch cars going into there. Even if they qualify 6th or 7th, I still think the only real fight that they're going to have in this race will be Fernando Alonso and Max Verstappen. Hey, maybe Checo has a good race, let's see. But I genuinely believe that there's going to be another podium chance here, if not fighting for higher, depending on if luck goes into their way. You guys have all heard the saying, happy wife, happy life. Well, what about happy Hamilton, happy Mercedes? He's been pretty happy with the car. Yeah, that's a corny line, but that's true. Hamilton, when he's happy, the Mercedes team is happy. They've now made a 7-time world champion, a 8-time constructor world champion, happy to be into the car. He feels more balanced and more relaxed into this car. He felt that way in Monaco, which was a track that really relied on driver confidence. He feels that way now here in Spain. And with contract talks happening, I think Mercedes is on their A game right now. And there's a lot of rumored stuff coming. So these upgrades that came, these upgrades that we see now onto the car, the side pod design, these were planned still. These were very much planned. Yes, they were probably refined and done in a different way, maybe by James Allison. But Mike Elliott, the technical director before, did plan on these things happening, and they were going to change the car in a certain type of way coming into Imola. That was a 2/10 game that we were really talking about, 2/3 game. But this gives them really a new baseline. So actually in Silverstone right now, the rumor is that will be the first upgrade package by James Allison, which will be a front wing, a rear wing, and more revised, really, settings onto the car for aerodynamic efficiency. That is when we will get everything. And I feel like by Silverstone, that's when we'll see if Lewis Hamilton will sign the contract or not. Obviously, he has a lot of faith in James Allison. Look what he's delivered him with the W11 and even the W10. I mean, the guy's made magnificent cars throughout his whole entire career. So I really do believe this will be the Grand Prix that we'll see Lewis Hamilton sign a contract extension for Mercedes. What are your guys' thoughts on Mercedes going into Canada and really Lewis Hamilton's really career in general? Like, will it stay with Mercedes? I don't think that's really even a question. I feel like he's staying here and that won't even change up until he really retires in his career, unless he decides to do a little Ferrari venture towards the end. But let me know your thoughts down below. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and Peace.